I'm going to share just a little bit about where I came from and what I got to do and where I got my dream, and then some things that I didn't even dream I would ever do, I got to do. You almost can't dream too big, because even if you dream of flying a space shuttle, there are probably things you might end up doing someday you didn't even ever dream of. If you grew up in small town Indiana, you probably didn't ever imagine that you'd climb into a Russian rocket and leave the planet. So it's really amazing what the potential and the possibilities are out there if there's some persistence and some luck, of course, involved, and you just get out there and kind of go looking for it. So let's see. I'm ready, Jeremy. See if I got a picture there. Well, there we got the little airplane. I like to say that this was my first dream. I got my very first ride from my older brother when I was about 14 years old. It was actually on July 4th, just before I turned 14. And I flew from a little grass strip on the north side of Hartford City, Indiana, down here in Blackfoot County. And he took me up flying, and I just absolutely couldn't believe it. You know, I go, who designed this airplane? And, you know, how does it work? And how did you fly it so well? And how can we get it up and get it down? And I just really wanted to do that, and I was inspired to do it. But I was the youngest of 6. We didn't have a lot of money to do that kind of thing. So I wasn't able to fly very much. I was able to read a lot, though. You can be a poor farm kid and read a lot. And I found a book one of my brothers had once when I was young up in my attic in the summertime. And I read this book by Michael Collins. Michael was what we call the lunar module pilot on Apollo 11. So when everybody knows the names Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, of course, because they got to go down, descend to the moon, and walk around. But Michael Collins stayed up and orbited the moon in what was called the command module, and he took them there and kind of brought them home, if you will. So had a lot of the duties that they didn't have that pertains to the actual moon landing. And the lesser known, but a great author, and he wrote this great book. Mostly this book inspired me to go fly. I just loved it. It's the first book I ever read where I got to the very end of it, and I turned right back to the first paragraph, and I started right over again, and I read it all again. So I wasn't much of a reader, but that was really inspirational to me, and I was lucky to have found that book. And that inspired me to fly. So I decided, you know, I'm gonna see if I can make a career out of flying. And when I was in high school, at that point, I went in and talked to guidance counselors, and those guidance counselors made the connection for me to Air Force ROTC and the chance to fly airplanes. If they hadn't helped me, I wouldn't be standing up here today. I literally went in and asked for some applications, and they said, yeah, we'll get those for you. And I walked out and thought, I wonder if I'll ever see applications for ROTC. And, you know, I went about my other business again, went back to whatever athletic season it was, or whatever, back to my duties on the drum line in the band. And one of the guidance counselors came to me and he goes, here's an Army application, here's an Navy application, here's an Air Force application. Fill those out, have them to me by the end of next week. So, you know, I kind of did that, and that sent me down this path. And so, you know, I have a lot to thank him for, right, in terms of helping me make that bridge and keeping that dream alive. So I did try to follow him, but I also had a lot of help along the way. When I was doing that, I was a F-15 pilot in the Cold War times, really, in Germany and Iceland. And never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that one day I would be doing this thing right here. Let's see if I hit the right key. I'll show you. Which was getting ready to put some flowers next to Yuri Gagarin's gravesite on the way to Kazakhstan to go fly on a rocket in Russia. So this is just the very last steps. That's a real photo, and we got some special access to the Kremlin wall and inside to go do that final ceremony. This is a tradition for Russian cosmonauts. They always do this before they go fly into space, before they head to Kazakhstan. I had, of course, prior to that, done a lot of training and learned a lot about Russian spacecraft and even how to speak Russian. One of the questions I had this morning were, what are the most important subjects for students? And I said, well, you know, just about everything you take when it comes right down to it. You know, communication skills. If you don't have them, you can't get any job. Even an engineer can't be a good engineer without good communication skills. You never know when you're going to need a foreign language, or at least a really good working knowledge of English so that you can study a foreign language to take you to someplace like that. And then, of course, all the standard STEM, the scientific, technical stuff, all those math. It's just really important to have an interest in everything. So for the students out there, if they teach it in school, it means it's important. So study it hard and stay after it. You never know what parts of it you're going to need. Okay? So this is where I ended up. This is the part of the dream I told you I never even fathomed that I could actually get to. So this launch was in October of 2012, and this took me to the space station to live for almost 5 months, and I didn't come back until March 2013. So that wasn't even something I aspired to. Really what I wanted to do, and we'll get back to that long mission, what I wanted to do was fly, wear one of these orange flight suits, and join another pilot and be a pilot of this machine. So that was something that I transitioned after my days of flying fighters. I went to test pilot school and just got kind of interested in the space program. I found out they were hiring shuttle pilots. So I did do some applications and finally got in. I'll tell you about how hard the road was to kind of get there. I didn't become a pilot until I was 40. I finally did get to fly on a space shuttle mission. So I only got one because the program was coming to an end. But we launched at midnight in late August of 2009. So there's the congratulatory handshakes. Until you get to a certain speed, you don't really know you're going to get to stay in space.
And I'm waiting for the 20-second plus X.
There's some chance you could end up in Spain or France. Right at the end there, I said 25.8, because if we had 25.3 or less, we were going to Spain. And that was the velocity in feet per second. So 25,800 feet per second. That's about 17,500 miles per hour, roughly, that you need to go to make the circle around the Earth and stay in Earth orbit. So we're doing 5 miles every second. And it's only taken 8 minutes and 45 seconds to get there. So from the time we leave the pad until you're in orbit going 17,500 is 8.5 minutes. So you can figure out that's stepping on the gas pedal pretty hard the whole time. For about the last 2.5 minutes of the ascent, we're actually gathering velocity at a rate of 60 miles per hour every second. So imagine if you were in a car and you started and you went 0, 60, 120, 180, 240, 300 miles per hour. That's how fast we're gathering speed, and we just keep doing that for minutes and minutes and minutes. So in the end, we actually have enough velocity. The engineers are geniuses. They figured out just how much you need to not go too high, not to go too low, to get back into the atmosphere and to stay in Earth orbit. And I gotta tell you, even after all the training and everything I was supposed to be doing, when when we shut down and we came around into the sunlight and I saw the Earth below for the first time and realized we were going to actually not go back down, I just thought, there's some geniuses out there. Thank you for, for all those people who went before me and figured this all out, designed, built this machine, and engineered it. Thank you so much. It was really an amazing thing to get to do. A lot of times, I get to stand up here and tell you how cool it was, and pilots and astronauts get a lot of credit. But in truth, there's hundreds of thousands of people to thank for our space shuttle being able to fly. When we go to fly, we don't put our suits on. We don't even put our boots on. Somebody else puts them on and ties them for us. So we have a very big team to thank to get us for getting us to space. Okay, the mission of the space shuttle in its early years was to deliver any kind of payload to space that anybody wanted up there. We did take a lot of things up. You're all probably very familiar with Hubble. So the Hubble Space Telescope was put up by shuttle, been back in service a few times. Many other kinds of satellites, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and lots of other things, deploying some classified payloads, a lot of foreign payloads. But in the end, we used the space shuttle mostly to build this palace in the sky, if you will. This is the International Space Station. It really is international because there's about 15 countries involved in it. The European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, Canadian Space Agency, NASA, and Russia all work together as friends on this project. And it's really the only peacetime cooperative project. The countries get together and throw money all in the same pot, and we all benefit together. So it's really kind of a remarkable symbol, if you will, of international cooperation. But it's also remarkable because it's so huge, it's so hard to build and put together. And this is amazing. My high school doesn't have a place like this at all. We have a gymnasium that's this big, but we don't have a performing arts center like this. It's so beautiful. And when I look at it, I think this is the size of the International Space Station. If you include the arrays and the truss and everything like that, it would just barely fit in this room. The habitable volume, it's pressurized, the tubes, are about, it's more like an airliner or something. They're running down the middle. And I think I might have a little better picture here. So what you have inside is a little bit smaller, but the entire structure is just absolutely huge. In fact, if you go see the Warsaw Tigers play football next fall, imagine, look at the football field, and imagine an International Space Station superimposed on top of it. And we go from end zone, cover both end zones, and cover both sidelines really with the solar arrays, and go sideline to sideline. So really amazing beast, if you will, in the sky. Now, how do we build something like this? I get questions that, how did they get it up here? I get a little flick here that shows how it was put together, piece by piece, mission by mission. The little bottom left says that's 4 missions, that's 5 missions. These are all launches of either a Russian Proton or a space shuttle to take pieces up. Or those letters in the bottom left are separate rocket launches or space shuttle launches to build this International Space Station. So not only was the final product work of engineering, but really the intermediate stages had to be as well. Because you had to have solar power from the very beginning with one array. That array gets moved to the outside at some point. Modules are rearranged. And every consideration in engineering has to be taken care of. Electrical power, thermal control, keeping it hot and cold, and keeping everything working and plumbed, and making sure everything fits together. Almost no module in the construction of the space station saw the other module next to it ever on Earth. The first time they ever came together was in space. And there were some people that were just really hoping they fit, put them together. Football, those bolts go in. So it's really impressive that they all fit together and work out.